Hey fiber friends, welcome to episode 18 of the Botanical Knitter Vlogcast. I'm Emily, I'm a knitter, spinner, sometimes sewist, well all the time sewist lately, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can find me on Instagram as The Botanical Knitter and on Ravelry as Botanical Knitter. I recently created a Ravelry group for this vlogcast, which is exciting, and mostly because I'm hosting a knit along, but we'll see how much I use it. I'm not like a super active Ravelry groups forum person. I don't even know the terminology that well. So if you have any pro tips, what you do and you don't like about Ravelry, if you would prefer that I maybe make a Discord or something else, let me know. And yeah, it has been a month since I filmed my last full episode, and a lot has happened. It's been very peak end of summer Minnesota summer activities. I went to the state fair, went to a Minnesota Twins game. My family was in town for a week, so we did lots of Minnesota summer things, walks around the lake, eating on patios. It was really fun. So that was a good time. And then we hosted this past weekend the Sweater Weather Get Together, and that was hosted by myself, Muse 2320, Teresa from Get Bentz, the Yarn Adventure Truck, Salt of the North, and Crafty Like a Monkey. And that was such a fun event. I think we had over 100 people at one point come to the market and then stick around all day for spinning and knitting and crocheting and weaving together. We took over Spiral Brewery and it was so much fun. There were several times I saw non-knitters and makers walk into the brewery and see us like we'd completely taken over the whole space. And it was pretty funny to see, if I'm being honest, because they were like, oh, what's going on? So thanks to Spiral for letting us totally take over. I'll have some footage at the end of this episode from the market, from the meetup, so you can see all the things that happened, but it was a really good time. All right, let's get started with what I'm wearing. So today I'm wearing my linen, recycled linen, cotton, I can't remember everything that was in it. It's, I believe, Twig. Maybe could be totally making that up. Maybe I should just like be a good podcaster and look at my notes, but I won't. We're gonna wing it. I'm wearing a short sleeve ranunculus out of Shibui linen that is, I think, no longer being sold. I purchased it from Harry and Alice 2 yarn shop hops ago, so April of 2023. I made this for our trip last year to Puerto Rico. My Facebook and Instagram memories have been all about Puerto Rico from last year. My husband and I went. I was there for a work conference, so we attached a couple extra days and got to go to the rainforest, and we did a bioluminescent kayaking bay tour at night. It was incredible. And this top was perfect because it was in upper 90s and was so humid. Most often I think wore this as a swimsuit cover up because, as you can see, and I'll stand up, it's pretty long. I'm wearing just a tank underneath, but it was pretty long, so it was perfect for a swimsuit cover up. And you know what? I may be a millennial, but I'm gonna wear this French tuck and I'm gonna die on that hill. Anyways, the other thing I'm wearing today is my Pomona pants. I just made these. There's a pocket in the front. It's hard to see, you can't see, but they're wide leg and they hit just above my ankle bone. This is linen, deep stash linen that I purchased from Knit and Bolt a couple years ago. I think I was gonna make another Pharaoh dress, but I instead decided to try these Pomona pants because everybody makes multiple pairs that I've seen. Like, it's like a favorite thing, which is wild because the construction is literally 2 wide leg pieces that you then sew together on the inside. There's no side seaming. You use 2-inch elastic. Maybe that's why I like it. I like a wider elastic on my hip line, but the fit is really nice. Like, I like these better than some of the patterns I've made that are maybe constructed in a way that I would think would give me a better fit. Anyways, love these, highly recommend them. I will talk about in my future sewing plan segment about my plan for a next pair, but it's the Pomona pant from Anna Allen, and I love them. I obviously have notes because I feel like I have so much to cover, and I'm sitting in a different spot today, which puts the table right in front of me, which is kind of nice, but I also feel like I'm on a work conference call. Hello, welcome to the Botanical Knitter Zoom call. But anyways, let's just dive right on in. Finished objects, and I'm gonna do knitting first, and then I'll talk about sewing. So my first finished object is the Vice Versa Shawl by Busy Bee Knits, or Bridget Zhou. And I've talked about this on a previous podcast, and I am so happy with how it turned out. As I've mentioned before, the construction was super fun. So this was a test knit for Bridget. Bridget debuted it at Flock, which happened in August. And while I couldn't go to Flock, I was really happy to test knit this. It is 2-color brioche. And without giving too much away, it starts with the spine and then you work your way down. So you're always decreasing, which made it feel like the shawl flew off my needles. I also find brioche to be the perfect mix of like potato chip knits. Like I can knit, but I can also talk to people. Like brioche for me is very intuitive, so I have no problem talking to people watching TV while I'm doing brioche. I used the May CSA yarn from Get Bentz Farm. That's that gray colorway. And then I used my Handspun, which is like the purpley orange to pinky to cranberry to brown from, it was fiber. I believe it was merino, 100% merino, which is like, you know what it is to spin, from Hello Yarn when I did their fiber club. I used about 90 grams of the contrast color, my Handspun, which was fingering to sport weight. And then I used 80-ish grams of this yarn from Teresa. The skein was 300 yards and it was probably a sport to DK. And it definitely ebbs and flows. Like both my Handspun and this mill spun yarn have their thick and thin moments, but brioche is so forgiving that it really works well. So here's one side, and here's the other side. If you haven't done brioche before, would completely recommend this to be your first crack at knitting. Bridget wrote a really thoughtful pattern. There are links, the pattern has links to tutorials, but then it also has drawings. So if you're a visual person, if you like to look at drawings, if you like to follow videos, like it meets you where you're at. So would really recommend it. I also love the shape. So I knit the small, and I did go down one needle size. So there's two sizes, the small and then the large size. And I like the small size for like the ease of wrapping it. I just think it's really, really beautiful. So anyways, big fan. Loved using my Handspun. Found this to be a really engaging and enjoyable pattern. Like it was very comforting to knit. My next pattern, my next finished object, is a pair of socks. Look how cute these are. So last episode I talked about like how my sock mojo was starting to come back, and I showed you a pair of checked socks that I was working on, and I made it all the way to the heel, and then I was like, these are way too small, like could not, even after I tried steam blocking them, could not get it over my foot. And I'm learning that while I love to knit color work, and I've done color work sweaters, hats, cowls, mitts, socks are different, even when I go up a needle size. So struggling with that, but I've redeemed myself with these. So I will say I ripped out the little check socks. They weren't doing it for me. And instead I decided to do Summer Lee's Colorwork Cuff Club. So Summer Lee Designs is a prolific sock knitter and designer. Obsessed with her. Most of the socks I've done are either hers or Sock Witchery. And so she started a Colorwork Cuff Club. So every month is a new pattern, which I was like, genius. And it was $1 a month. So there's the standard pattern, and then every month she sends you the colorwork section. So this was the first, and it's the August Colorwork Cuff. And I'm so happy with how these knit up. They were so fun. I think I knit these in about a week and a half. Like socks are quick, but also color work for me is very, very like, it just draws me in. Like I want to do it all the time. So this is the contrast color here is Spruce from Silly Goose Yarns on her plump base, which I think is 75/25 merino nylon. And then the main color is a colorway from my stash, deep stash. The Yarnbrary is the dyer name. They're out of Salt Lake City. I picked up this skein when I was on a ski trip with my family in 2022. So I guess not that deep stash, but since I'm a relatively newer knitter, it is for me. And the colorway is Beth March, inspired by Little Women. And I love the blues and the speckles there. It's like kind of minty base, teals, whites. I think it's really pretty. Standard heel flap and gusset, and then decreases. I did a contrast color. I like to do my heel, if I can, in the same color as my sock body, sock leg, sock foot, just because it's less ends to weave in. And I feel like maybe it makes that whole piece stronger. I don't know, could be making that up. I have noticed, and I'm not the only one, that we all struggled with, or not we all, but everybody I've talked to has really struggled with getting the cuff over their heel and ankle. Once they're on my foot, they fit great. The pattern, I knit a medium. I went up to a US 2 for the colorwork section, and I cast on 66 stitches, which is 2 more than I usually do, and that's what the pattern calls for, and I still found it to be a little snug. So I may try for the next sock doing a large for the cuff, and then for the foot and toes going back to a medium, and just using the heel gusset to do my decreases to get back to where I am. Because like they're pretty tight to get on, and blocking really saved me. Though my floats look, I think my floats look fairly decent. Or maybe I try going up to a 2.5, but then I feel like it's gonna get too gappy, because already you can kind of see with the gauge difference. Anywho, if you knit these, let me know what your thoughts are. I will talk about the September cuff in my future knitting plans. All right, and then my last finished object for knitting is the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I was late to the game on this one. I know so many people have knit this. I loved knitting this. I was a very bougie gal and used 3 skeins of Spincycle. So I used Leith, which is this tealish. I used Mississippi Marsala, which is a lot of this warm orange. And then I used Space Oddity, which is some of this mint, and then also some purpley oranges. I think it just goes really lovely together. And I chose this because at the shop hop this year, my friend Bree was wearing this cowl, basically all the same colors except for one, and I can't remember if it was Mississippi Marsala or Space Oddity that was the different color, but was the same color. So I was very inspired and like kept staring at it all day. I was like, I need to knit that. So I did. I made it through a test knit and then cast this on. I've been wanting to knit this since the shop hop in April. I got a pro tip from my friend Caitlin at the Sweater Weather get together about only seaming, probably doing the mattress seam, because you knit in one piece and then seam it together from here up, so that it splits and then you can see more of it, because as I wear this, you know, it hides itself. And so sometimes Andrea Mowry's picture, she's like this. It's totally so you can see more of it. So at some point I'm gonna go through and rip back the seam from the bottom and then just tie a knot, so then it can be a little bit more on display but still keep my neck warm. But I think this was a beaut. Would recommend knitting this. I think it's just a stunning project. And so again, another potato chippy, and I knit this honestly in like another 10 days too. I've been really into knitting accessories lately. I don't know if it's because they're like more of an instant gratification as I'm working on projects that take a little bit more time, like garment knitting. It's because the fall and winter weather are coming. Hello, Mr. B. Fall and winter weather are coming where I want to cozy up, and I get to wear hats soon. I get to wear cowls soon, but really on that accessory train right now. It is time to talk about my works in progress, or WIPs. I have 3 that I'm gonna work through today. I will say I haven't done much work on my Hello for My Colors because I still think the colors are ugly. I'm gonna go to Dandelion Fiber Co. on Saturday, tomorrow. They're hosting a market with like flowers and vegan pastries. I'm gonna go and pick out a new color for my Hello for My Colors. I think I just need one bright one instead of that brownish mustard to shake it up. So hopefully I'll get to that soon, but there's no progress on that. One whip I have talked about before is my sheep camp sweater, and this is for a work colleague. I did a silent auction item for work last year that I would knit you a custom hand knit sweater, and this has taken much longer than I said it would take, and it's because my colleague is just a love, and she's been like, get to it when you get to it. Please don't stress yourself out. However, we're coming up on a year and I really want to get it to her so her wife can wear it for the fall and winter. And I am on track. So I'll be in DC. I leave next week and I'm there for 9 days. We're having our big leadership summit and lobby day, and I will see my colleague there. So my goal is to give her the sweater then, which I absolutely can do. So I have made it through the yoke and I have finished one sleeve. So, and I'm like 5-6 inches into the body. So I'm doing really well. And I did the sleeve just yesterday, like last night, I cruised through all of it. I am doing no decreases in the sleeve. So I'm picking up and just doing a rapid decrease right before the cuff. My colleague's wife has, I think, pretty short arms. So it's going even quicker than, I don't think I have long arms, but maybe that's what it is. I am long armed. This has been through it, you all. So I cast on a size 3. I made it through the yoke, through 3 inches of the body, started a sleeve, did the sleeve to pattern with the decreases, tried on the sleeve, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so tight. Even with blocking, like it's too tight for me, and I would rather things be oversized and fit the person rather than be too small, because I don't know my colleague's wife. So then I ripped back the sleeve, and then I knit this much more of the sleeve without decreases. And then I tried on the sweater and I was like, this feels tight. And then I realized I made the same mistake that I did the last time I knit this sheep camp sweater. Did I say what this is? I didn't. This is the sheep camp sweater by Jennifer Berg. That mistake is that I didn't go up in needle size after the color work. And so your gauge goes from 22 inches to 19 and a half, and I was at like 23 stitches to an inch, 23 stitches to 4 inches. Good God, I need to get my act together. So the body was too small, and I was like, I don't want to have to like mail it to them. It doesn't fit. They either don't want to stress me out so they don't say anything about it, or then I have to reknit it, which I would absolutely do, right? Absolutely. So I ripped back to the yoke, and then I kept thinking, like, it took me all night to decide on a game plan. So I stuck with the size 3 for the yoke because it's pretty roomy through here. And sometimes the collar is really wide on this, and it already is looking kind of wide. And then I decided to do over about an inch, a series of increases to get me up to the stitch count for a size 4. So then, because you knit for about an inch or 2 before you split for sleeves. So I was like, okay, that's a way then I can make sure the sleeves are a little bit wider and then the body has. So it ended up adding about 2.5-3 inches total, which I felt great about. And then I remembered to go up a needle size as well. So now I'm right at gauge. The cords I'm on a 14 cord, so it's like pretty tight in, but the fit is gonna be much better. And like, it's beautiful. I think this color combo is stunning. This is Ladybird Lake on the Dove DK from Treehouse Knits, and then this is just bare yarn from my dye stash, and I'm really happy. So my goal is between tonight, Friday night, and Saturday to knit sleeve number 2, and then work on the body and get the body done by the end of next week. I leave for DC on Tuesday, and I'm there for work Tuesday through Sunday before Leadership Summit and Lobby Day starts for some other work things. So I'm trying to decide, do I try blocking it when I'm at the hotel do I give my colleague a little bit of wool wash and give them instructions on how to block. She knits, so like she's like she doesn't knit a ton, but she knows how to block things. So maybe I'll just give her a little bit of wool wash and say block it to Debbie's measurements. Like if you want to stretch out the sleeves, okay, this is helpful. I worked through it. I'm gonna have them block it, so that way they can kind of give it a little bit more of a stretch if they want to, depending on their size preference. So anyways, sheep camp sweater, my second. I love it despite me not paying attention to the clearly well-written pattern. User error. Okay. My next whip is a new one. I haven't talked about this yet. And it's the Alpine Bloom hat from Caitlin Hunter Boyland Knitworks. And it is dreamy. I impulse cast this on last week because I was craving Colorwork. I have plans to do an Alpine Bloom tee as part of the Sacred Sheep Knit Along that I'm doing with Professor Pearl, and our friend Jasmine is also going to join us. She's going to do a sheep camp, I think, but we're all going to knit sweaters together to wear them to Sacred Sheep, which we'll all be going to in November. And so I thought this was a good way to familiarize myself with the pattern, check out my tension. I love Caitlin Hunter patterns. I think they're beautiful. Sizing has been an issue for me. My gauge, even if I'm on gauge, the size doesn't fit how I think the pattern says it's going to. And I know I'm not alone. That being said, still knitting them. So this was my way to kind of try it out. I'm using different yarn for it, but I just think like, it's so pretty. I just can't stop looking at it. So the details. I'm knitting an adult small/medium. Oh, the sun came out. Hello, sun. Hello. And I am using, my main color is a BFL Alpaca Stellina mix from Get Bentz Farms. That's the mill that's near me. That's my friend Teresa. I talk about her all the time. Y'all know her by now. This was a skein that I got last winter or fall. Let's see if you can kind of see the sparkles. So that's my main color. It's very fluffy. It's got like a little bit of a halo to it because of the alpaca, and it's a nice contrast to the BFL. And then my contrast color is Leftover Spincycle Valley Girl. This is the dyed in the wool, so it's the sport weight, and this is definitely a sport-ish weight. And it is so pretty. I love this color. If you remember, if you've been following along for a while, I did a pair of Colorwork Oogie Boogie mitts from Nightmare Before Christmas, and I used black yarn, though a different, and then I used Valley Girl, and I loved that color, and so I was excited to knit this. And like I said, I cast this on a week ago, and I've been like forcing myself to work on the sheep camp and then letting myself get through like an inch every night because it's such a treat to work on. My floats are looking really nice. Like even the reverse side of this hat is pretty cool. I am so ready for fall and Halloween. I'm using my Nightmare Before Christmas stitch marker from Vic's Knits. And then I have my favorite glass stitch markers. They're hand blown glass. My friend picked them up for me at Flock, and they're from Fiber and Flame. And it's a gal, Brittany, and then her husband or her partner, and he makes these, and they're just so cool. So I love them, and I'm using them for this. And they're in my LL Bean mini tote that I am obsessed with. This will be done soon. I'm just really enjoying knitting it. My last whip is in a new project bag. And I know, did I need another project bag? No, not at all. But it was so cute. So I picked this up at the market this past weekend. It's from Crafty Like a Monkey. And look, it's spooky. It's a tarot card like the Plant Lover. Spooky plants, green, tie-dye. I had to. Snaps. We know I love a snap. Love a snap. So it is what it is. I got it. And in it is my Musselburgh hat by Ysolda Teague. And I cast this on a couple weeks ago. Kind of an impulse cast on, if I'm being honest. My husband and I decided we wanted to go see the new Deadpool movie. And because I can't not knit anymore, I cast on a Musselburgh because I know I can knit that in the dark and not have to worry about it or look at it. And this colorway is gorgeous. So this colorway is Cassian from Fangirl Fibers. It is named after a Court of Thorn and Roses character, Cassian, and I'm obsessed. I think another subconscious reason why I cast this on Beyond, or at least I picked this yarn, is because I recently finished listening to all of the Sarah Maas books. I don't know how to say it. Oh, and I'm going to justify it because I listened to all the audiobooks. One narrator says Moss and the other says Mass. So which is it? I think it's Moss. I don't know. Anyways, y'all know who I'm talking about. If you don't, you're welcome. Welcome to the world of romantasy. You're going to love it. Everybody loves it for a good reason. I started this audiobook journey. So I've read all of the books. I've read Crescent City, Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorn and Roses. I've read them all. But when Crescent City came out, I started with A Throne of Glass. Read all 7 books in 2019, 2020. Obsessed. Then ACOTAR came a thing. So then I read all of those. And then, wow, the sun's out again. And then Crescent City came out. And Crescent City is different, in my opinion, from the other 2. And so at first I didn't love Crescent City. So then the second Crescent City series came out and I decided to listen to the first book and I loved it. And listening to the books instead of reading them, one, gave me, like, I remembered things that I had totally forgotten. And you also, like, I developed more of a character attachment almost after listening to the books. And so because I've been sewing and, well, not really spinning, but for a while I was spinning a lot and knitting, I was like, what if I just listened to all of the audiobooks? So I did. I've listened to 2 out of the 3 Crescent City. I just finished reading Crescent City 3, so I'll listen to that later. All of the Throne of Glass books, and I just finished up through Silver Flame, A Quarter of Silver Flames for ACOTAR. And I just love them all. I really do. And I like go back and forth all the time on what my favorite would be. But anyways, full circle. I picked Cassian, I think, because I've been listening to the Court of Thorn and Roses series as I was picking out yarn. I love the moody grays. I love the bits of bronze, brown. I like the way it's kind of micro striping, pooling. I think it looks cool. I always say I'm going to keep a hat for myself and then end up gifting it to my dad because my dad does wear hats all of the time. But I really want to keep this one for me. So I'm about halfway through the hat. It's a 400-yard skein. I'm going to use all of it. I measured it and I used maybe 2 grams from cast on to full stitch count. So we'll get to that later, but enjoying this one, getting lots of conference call action, knitting or card time. So there's that. Oh, and then I always forget, I buy stitch stoppers and then forget to use them. Does anybody else do that? I got a pumpkin. Also came from Fangirl Fibers in the Zombie Knit Apocalypse goodie bag. So this is my Fangirl Fibers project. And I'm a big fan. All right, that's it for whips. Let's move on to knitting. Nope. Sewing. Let's move on to sewing. I take a pause to drink more caffeine, though I'm sure all of you are like, girl, no more caffeine, please. I have absolutely transitioned to fall. I decorated the inside of my house for fall and Halloween. I bought these glasses from Anthropologie because how could you not? I got 2 of the pumpkin and then I got 4 of the black ghosties. I am drinking leftover coffee that was once warm but is now iced with pumpkin spice creamer. I'm just basic and I don't care. I love it. All right, let's start with some sewing. So I showed you my Pomona pants already. Those were great. My second pair of pants that I started, and I'm kind of on a quest to find a pair of pants that I like. Eventually I will learn how to do seat adjustments, but from now I'm just gonna let it be. So I sewed a pair of Lane pants, and this is from Sydney Graham, who has a YouTube channel and is wonderful. Wide leg pants, is written to add a cargo pocket on the side, but before I did all the extra work, I wanted to decide if I liked it. I also don't know if I'm like cool enough for cargo pants. I ran out of fabric, so this is Deep Stash Joanne linen, ran out of fabric, so found some scraps for the pockets. They're very big on me. I can't remember what size I made. I want to say maybe like a 16, way too big. So if I was to sew again, I would go down 1 or 2 sizes. But because I like the Pomona pant better, I don't think I'm gonna sew these again. So that's just me, preference. The pattern's well written. There's a cute little tutorial. It's great. They almost look a little dressy because of the color and the wide leg, and I like the hem. So maybe I can see if I can wear these for work with like a nicer top. But this is a one and done for me. Hi, my name's Emily, and I'm really obsessed with sewing. Can you tell? All right, next finished object sewing wise is another, oh no, I think it's stuck in my, no, sorry, okay. Is another Ashton top from Helen's Closet. I have definitely talked about this pattern before. For this one, I did the same size, but I did the longer version. So they've been pretty heavily cropped. I did the long version this time, and I'm okay with the fit. I need to find the happy medium in between the cropped version and the long version, because it's just not, it's a little too long for me, but it is so cozy and comfortable. I used this beautiful linen bandana from Rare Press. Rare Press is an artist by me. I picked up this indigo dyed, hand sewn, hand printed linen bandana at the Minnehaha Falls Art Festival. And it was a huge bandana, and it felt too bulky to roll it up, and I was struggling to figure out how to style it, and it's like a pretty heavy linen too. And then I realized it would be big enough to do a top if I did it as like a kind of scrappy one. So I recycled or upcycled the linen bandana for the front of it. And then for the back, I just used some stash linen that was in it's actually cotton. Oh, excuse me. It's cotton from Fableism, not sponsored, that I had purchased online from Material Goods. And I was going to make a pair of shorts out of it, but I really like the texture of it. It's got this little kind of hand embroidered, I don't know that's hand embroidered, but it looks like it's hand embroidered X's on the back. And I did the facing using that back as well. I was pretty proud of my fairly neat stitching on this one. I feel like it looks very nice and finished. Definitely getting more consistent with my seams, with my understitching, top stitching. Like, I'm kind of proud of myself on this one. So it's really pretty, super flowy. I honestly haven't gotten that much wear out of it, and I think it's because of the length, but I should just get over it and wear it because it's beautiful. My next finished object is the Skyline dress by Sydney Graham, the same designer as the pattern, the pants that I just showed. This is a really beautiful tiered, flowy, oversized dress. The fabric is from Ruby Star Society from their Weft and Warp collection, or Weft and Woven. I actually think it's slightly different than that. Ow, that was my elbow. And I sewed this as part of a sew along organized by Chelsea Sews, Throws, Knits. She does everything. She's incredible. She knits, does pottery, she sews. I like kind of idolize her. She's my making idol. And she pulled a group together of folks who wanted to sew this together, which has been so fun to talk to other sewists, especially those who are much more advanced than I am. So what I like about this, it has pockets. I love the fabric. It has this really cool tie detail. So you attach it in the front, and then the back goes through this channel, and then you can tighten it as needed. What I don't like about it is the fit. I learned from the Sid tie dress that the bodice fits well, and then to go down a couple of tier sizes. The Sid tie dress is also by Sydney Graham. So I did adjust my tier sizes right from the get-go. It was fun to sew, easy to follow instructions. There's a great video tutorial like all of her other patterns. I just don't love a spaghetti strap on me. And so what I did do was play around with the styling because I loved the fabric. So I have worn this several times now since I finished it. with a white t-shirt underneath and with a black t-shirt underneath, and the t-shirt makes it just like so much more comfortable. I liked styling it with the t-shirt. The tight-fitting t-shirt seemed to balance out the flowiness of the tiered skirt. I wore it to go see Green Day with my friend Courtney at Silly Goose, and I wore it with a black tee underneath, and I had my hair in space buns, and I had my Adidas like little sneaker skate shoes on, and I felt like a 90s kid, and it was so much fun. I remember, maybe you can relate, back in the day trying to decide what to wear at a concert because you didn't want to look like a poser, right? You wanted to like fit in and be cool. I remember having such anxiety about that all through early high school. Like I was definitely an emo punk kid, and I just remember the anxiety of that. And so to have this full circle moment of like going to Green Day, which was my first concert 20 years ago at the age of 14, and having that anxiety, to going to Green Day as a 34-year-old 20 years later and wearing what I want, wearing clothes that I made that bring me joy, not worrying about what people think, and like knitting, waiting for them to come on, was like, this is what life's supposed to be, right? Like this is the whole point of like, especially like the punk scene, is like being yourself and not caring about what other people think. So good job, Emily. Therapy is working. And then my last sewing make that I'm going to talk about today is the Zadie jumpsuit by Paper Theory. This one was made out of linen from Joanne. It was very big, very puckery, diapery in the crotch area. So I washed it and I put it in the dryer and I shrunk it, and now it fits great. I like this design a lot. It is a wrap jumpsuit. I'll untie it a bit. I usually don't wear wraps because I feel like they make me look bustier. Here, and let me unpull it so you can see the full waist. So it's this brown linen. It's a wide leg fit that hits just about maybe 3 inches up from my ankles. It's a V-neck wrap, which was a really fun construction to learn how to do that. I feel like this really challenged my sewing skills, but in a totally doable way. And then in the back, it has these sewn in pleats, or like slight shaping, which are very clunky, but I did it. And it looks really cute. I've been wearing a higher kind of sports bra or a tank underneath, though honestly, because of the wrap, it doesn't go very low. I think I'm eventually gonna sew in a snap here, so then I know definitely that it's like, I don't have to worry about the boobage seeping out. But this was a really fun sew. Definitely plan to do it again. We'll probably go down a size. Sorry, I didn't write down the size. I think maybe it was a 16 or a 14, but would for sure sew this again. Let's talk about future makes, because as is normal with me, the season is changing and I want to knit everything and anything that is fall or winter. So because of that, I am hosting the Sweater Weather Knit Together. I've posted about it on my YouTube page, on my Instagram account. I created a Ravelry group for it. I have some amazing prizes. It's running from the fall solstice to the winter solstice. I know there's a lot of really good knit-alongs happening right now, so like feel free to double, triple up. Whips are very welcome. My Instagram post has more rules, but it's pretty low-key, and I'll put them in the description, but feel free to join us. I have prizes from Muse 2320, Get Bentz, Sable & Co., a local friend who makes beautiful yarn-related mugs. I know there's others that I'm totally forgetting, so all the details will link below, but I'm like so in love with the generous community. People are like, can I donate a prize? I was like, you absolutely can. So the hashtag is Sweater Weather K2TOG, like our sewing knit together. Crochet is also welcome, but I'm a knitter, so I'm gonna make it knitting themed, but like if you want to crochet, please do. Like I want to be inclusive, so that's just explaining why it's knitting themed. I also have a fall makes video that I would recommend watching. I talk about a lot of patterns and current pattern inspo if you're looking for some ideas, so check that one out. And it talks about color work and like more textured patterns, slipovers, cardigans, the whole thing. I am thinking for the knit along, I will do an Alpine bloom tee. That's another thing. T-shirt sweaters count, vests count, cardigans count, whatever you define as a sweater that you want to make and makes you happy and cozy, do it. So I think I'm going to do the Alpine tee, which is by Caitlin Hunter. I already showed the pattern earlier from the Alpine Bloom hat. I'm still tinkering with yarn options, and I go into detail about my yarn options in the fall knitting video. So I'm still trying to decide on what that'll be, and I have to swatch for it. The other sweater I'm considering making is the Ingrid Slipover by Petite Knits. Petite Knitter, I can never remember. I haven't done any of their garments before. And I have this beautiful yarn from Get Bentz. It's Corriedale with some alpaca in it, I believe. And it's got bits of my Tweedy yarn from scraps left over. We made it into a tweed yarn using my 2023 knitting scraps. So it's like very custom for me. It's this beautiful deep brown black. And I just think the texture will look really good in this yarn, the way it'll bloom. And it feels like a very me thing, and I'm real obsessed with texture right now. So I think that's what I'm gonna make. Honorable mentions include the Hester cardigan from Savory Knits, and then the Faux Pas pullover from Brienne Moody. So maybe I'll do those, who knows? Anyways, we'll see. My eyes are so big, I wanna knit everything, but I know the time won't allow for it, and I need to like protect my wrists. Sewing wise, I'm thinking about doing the matchy high tide set that just came out. It is shorts and a cropped t-shirt, but you can add a Peter Pan collar, and I am such a sucker for a Peter Pan collar. I think it is the most adorable thing. So I think I'm gonna sew that next. I also, I should show you, I don't have fabric picked out for that, but eventually I'll figure it out. I also have some fabric swatches to show you what I'm thinking. So I think I'm gonna make another pair of Pomona pants, down a size, tapered leg, with this really beautiful fabric that I picked up from S.R. Harris. And I'll put in some vlog footage at the end of that because I went with Teresa and our friend Mary, and it was so much fun. But it's a dressier looking linen. It's 100% linen, but it's really beautiful and is pretty sturdy. And I think I could get away with this with 2 butt pockets for work. And so I need to cut out fabric for that. But this is something that I know I can sew up super quick because again, it's a super simple pattern. I also impulse bought this fabric from Lake's Makery, and I am planning to do a hinterland dress with sleeves, capped sleeves, but a short skirt version, and then with no placket. So then this will be my 3rd hinterland, and then each dress looks different. But I really like how it fits on my body, and this fabric is so fun. And I can just picture wearing it with my knits, like, this is adorable. You know what I mean? Anyways, so many ideas. And then my next sewing pattern that I want to do is the Wixton Shift. This pattern is no longer out for production, or it's not being printed, but a friend generously let me trace hers, and I'm going to make the Wixton Shift out of this purpley linen that I purchased from Joanne Fabrics as a way to try out the pattern and figure out what size I like before I use some gorgeous linen in my stash. That'll be a little bit more finished looking and potentially doable for work. So that's it for my current knitting projects, sewing projects. Follow me on Instagram. I'm definitely more consistent in my posting on Instagram than I am on YouTube, and you'll get to see more of my day-to-day. I started editing and realized that I didn't talk about acquisitions, especially acquisitions from the Sweater Weather get together. So here I am, different angle because I already put my tripod away and I am too lazy to get it back out. So here I am. First up is this. Okay, this is from Badger Face, Get Bentz, Teresa. This is Contentment. It is solar grazed Rambouillet with naturally dyed Teeswater locks. And the Teeswater locks come from Rebecca at Orchard Acres in Rochester. It's 250 yards of a 2-ply DK. And it's got really subtle, let's see if it'll focus. Come on, there. Subtle pinks, purples, greens. It's different from the zombie yarn because it's much more blended through. So I got this, and also the solar grazed Rambouillet is so cool. Teresa has shared with me, so Teresa's mill first is moving towards being completely solar powered. Also, sorry for airplane noise, it is what it is. Her mill is going to be solar powered run. She's installing that right now, which is so cool. But then she also has been working with shepherds that graze their sheep on farmland that have solar panels. The grass grows, goats don't work because goats jump on it, but sheep are wonderful, gentle grazers, and they don't disrupt the solar panels. So love this. And then I also picked up this yarn that is a project that Teresa and Muse 2320 are working on together, and it's Burn Pile Project. So oftentimes wool doesn't get shepherds that much money. Like the tagline is called "Not Worth the Sack," and that's meaning that the sack that the wool is sold in often costs more than the wool inside of it, or they don't make their money back from the wool inside of what they pay for to put the container in. So Teresa has been buying wool from shepherds that have wool that's not considered to be worth the effort to spin it and mill it. It's not used for commercial yarns. It's not used for textile projects. And Teresa's like, let's do something about that. So this is the Burn Pile Project. It's burn pile yarn, wool that isn't considered worthy enough. But look at it. I think it absolutely is. I'm trying to see. So this is a mix of wool. It's a 4-ply DK light worsted, 250 yards, and it's this beautiful red that Muse 2320 dyed. And also, like, it's cano bulb red orange. Like, is that not perfect? And I really am digging these two together. So maybe it'll be some sort of colorwork project. I always do this, but I don't know. But I think this is just really yummy. I think there's some up on Teresa's website now, all different colors, but this red spoke to me. The next thing I purchased is, well, actually a couple things. From Salt of the North, Maddie at Salt of the North, they sell natural dyes. They have a dye garden at Teresa's farm. I picked up some pre-mordanted cotton bandanas from them because I'm lazy. And also, mordanting cellulose, plant-based fibers, is different from protein, and I haven't done a ton of mordanting of, actually I haven't done any mordanting of cellulose fabric. So I think this definitely could be another Ashton top. It could be, I'm gonna naturally dye it and maybe make some sort of scrappy thing. Like, there's lots of patchwork fabrics out there, so maybe I'll make a patchwork fabric using a mix of natural dyes, natural dyed fabric, and my scraps. So I got 2 of those. I also got another set of the stick and stitch embroidery from Muse 2320. Super easy. You peel the paper backing, stick it to the fabric you want to embroider. It's a stabilizer and a pattern, and then it just melts away. I recently used one of these to embroider a project bag, and it worked great. And then the last thing that I picked up that I'm so excited for is the set from Muse 2320. It's called Midwest Princess. I love camo. I don't know why. Never hunted, don't hunt, but I just really love camo. It's probably the greens. I feel like I've had this exact conversation either with you in person, probably, if you know me, or on this podcast. And then it's hunter orange, and it is so perfect, and it reminds me of Tim Walz. If you've been watching, you know I love politics. I do a lot of public policy for a living. Tim Walz is my governor. He's incredible. And the Harris Walz campaign came out with camo hats that sold out like that. And so Sarah from Muse 2320 is in the process of making a pattern update to a hat that she has that is going to say Harris Walz in Colorwork. And so that's going to be this. And Sarah's dyeing me one more color to go with this. That's like a brownie black on a tweed base. So it'll be very like Midwest grandpa dad moment, like, because Tim Walz is all of our dads, right? He's like the typical Midwest dad, though actually he's very different from my dad, who's also a Midwest dad, but hey, he's wonderful. So I love this set. I'm not sure if Sarah has these in her shops or not. I'll link to Sarah's shop below. at Muse 2320 here in Hastings, and Sarah was one of the main facilitator and the ringleader of the sweater weather get together. So I saw it next to like all this Halloween decor in her shop and had to get it. So that's it for my current knitting projects, sewing projects. Follow me on Instagram. I'm definitely more consistent in my posting on Instagram than I am on YouTube, and you'll get to see more of my day-to-day. After I wrap this episode, I'll put in some vlog footage from at the state fair. I went with all of our knitting crew, or a good chunk of our knitting crew, and it was so fun to go through the knitted objects together, to see the handspun. I completely missed the deadline to enter my items into the state fair. Anxiety, procrastination at its finest. I knew it was due that day, and I thought, oh, I'll have until midnight. No, 4:30 p.m. 4:30 p.m. is the deadline. So lesson learned for next year, just submit the things instead of stressing out about what's going to be the most award winning. Just like do it, Emily. But the state fair was fun nonetheless. So I have footage from that. I have footage from a Twins game I went to. I have footage from the Green Day concert. And then all this footage from the sweater weather get together. Again, thanks to everybody who came to that. That was so much fun. I can't remember if the last time I filmed we had the October Brew and Knit with You yet. If we haven't, I've got footage for that. And then my garden right now is gorgeous. We've had a very rainy, mostly cool summer, and everything in my garden is popping right now. So I'll share some footage of my garden, which means I need to start naturally dyeing. I've collected cosmos and mums and hollyhock, coreopsis, hibiscus. Oh, that was a bee. That came from my eye. And so I really need to dye. I've been drying them. So I have a lot of dried dye stuff. And then as you can tell with all the bees floating around, the bees are also very happy with our garden. My husband loves bees. Like, he's a bumblebee, honeybee connoisseur. And so he's created this beautiful environment for them. We also have chipmunks and squirrels. We've had 2 families of cardinals this year nesting in our backyard. It's just like a little haven in the city, which I really love. So stay tuned for all the vlog footage. Get to see my summer escapades. If you haven't, check out the fall knitting video where I talk through all the patterns I'm considering knitting in the fall and winter, though clearly more time is needed if I was going to do all of those. I hope you join the sweater weather knit together. And with that, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I hope wherever you are doing well, and I'll see you next time.